That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly alarmed here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews, that is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reviews, where we look at some of the shiniest cinematic supernovas of the Nerdiverse, and then some that are not so brightly lit. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. You can always find this beautiful baby of a podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Still holding out for Spotify if they deem us worthy in their presence. We'll have to kind of wait on that one. I am extremely happy to introduce back to our review show, Beer Business Bureau's own Darren.
You're getting better at that, man. I love it.
I'm working. I'm gonna get me a shirt, dude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna become a peace ambassador for the Beer Business Bureau, dude.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
You just gotta educate me on them stouts, bro. You gotta take me out on a night, man.
It's more life than just stouts, man.
I know. See, this is my ignorance. This is my pure.
No, not ignorance, just inexperience.
There you know what? I feel like Ray right now. And you have the leaf. You feel the force? You feel it?
It's not that bad.
You feel that alcohol? You feel it? You feel those stouts?
You're deprecating yourself a little too much.
Oh no, I try to be a humble man. Oh man, this film is one of the bigger films of 2017. It had a lot of hype around it, and after seeing it last night, I want to say it kind of lived up to it. But we'll get into that a bit deeper. Of course, for this week's show, we are talking about 2017's. Directed by, it was a nice gentleman. He actually gave me ice cream once. Andy Marcelli. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too bad. And this is, of course, 2017's
It.
Version of It. A version of It.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't, it's really, you got to be careful calling it a remake.
Because it's not.
It's not a remake. Mm-mm. It's more like a reboot, but not really a reboot either.
It's a retelling.
It's like a reimagining.
It's a reimagining of the source material.
Yeah.
And I respect that a lot more than it being just a cookie cutter remake. And I saw that immediately from the intro, but I don't want to jump too ahead. What is your experience with it as a book, as a television series, as this film?
So I only know excerpts from the book. Actually, my mom used to have a first edition copy. It. Just lying around, and I remember it used to scare the shit out of me. But just looking at it, quotation marks,
right?
But in terms of the book, what I do know about it, way more in depth. But that's obvious. I mean, because
it's a Bible, dude.
Yeah,
it's huge, man.
It's really long.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna go chronologically, but not for very long because I'm gonna get to the meat of this review. But
right,
the 2-part original 90s series kind of tried to play a lot onto the length of the book,
right?
With having 2 parts.
Yeah, it felt it needed to do that.
Yeah, it felt, but even though it
kind of does.
It does. It did, but on the same token, it was just so. It was so long. It was
kind of like it was the horror version of Roots, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It
just kind of went on, and it kind of wrapped itself in its own circle.
Yeah.
If it would have just stayed true to the source material, it may have had an easier roadmap to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but in terms of that of the reimagining, quote unquote, have to be careful.
Right.
I liked it. I think that there were some really good references, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And then, ironically, on the same token, the references are my least favorite part of the movie. And it has more to do not with the fact that they did reference it, but the fact that the way they did it was a little... I'm at odds with it a little bit. But overall, it's a solid movie.
Yeah, and I feel the same way where it's not a perfect film, but I get why it made so much money. It's because it hits all the right twings that you want from a a blockbuster horror film. You know what I mean? And even in its own reference, in its own references to the TV series and the actual book, I think it did pretty well. It shined light on certain things. It didn't shine light on certain things that I wish it would have, but we'll get there in regards to some of the characterization. But I do feel that this is actually the best they could have actually done given its history.
I agree.
You know, and for me, I kind of came into this via the TV series when I was a kid. And of course, that iconic Tim Curry as Pennywise just burned into your brain. The one scene that got me that's not in this film is, of course, the shower scene where you see his teeth for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, with
I think
Beverly,
Georgie's
with Beverly.
With Beverly, is it Georgie or Beverly?
It's Beverly.
Beverly's in the group shower.
Oh, wait, no.
I think that's Georgie.
No. It wasn't Georgie. It was either Richie or it was.
You remember the scene I'm talking about? Because he comes out the faucet.
Out of the faucet, or out of you mean
out the floor vent? Yeah.
I think that was either Richie or Bill.
It may have been Bill. I can't remember because the kids.
It was a boy for sure.
It was a boy,
yeah.
Definitely. And they do that close-up shot of his teeth, and his eyes are bloodshot red. And even now, I think about it sometimes, and it's one of those shots that stay with me forever, kind of like the demon face in Exorcist. You know, not Reagan as all jacked up, but the actual black and white.
It was Eddie.
It was Eddie.
That's who it was.
Yeah. Dude. Oh, man, we got to get to the kids. The kids in this movie are amazing. They did a pretty good job.
Amazing. But there was a couple of bad eggs.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of this bad boy and talk about the intro, the introduction to Pennywise, the introduction to Bill and Georgie, and a little bit of backstory to their kind of dynamic, which is not really hard to explain. They're brothers. It's little brother, big brother relationship, and it doesn't seem adversarial, which kind of makes it a bit even more endearing given what happens. You know, he gives Georgie the iconic toy paper boat, and he's like, "What shall we call it?" He's like, "Her."
Yeah.
Call it ships or girls, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this little endearing. Please get invested into the character before we do something gruesome, and it kind of goes into why is this kid running around in the rain out by himself without his big brother?
With USS Georgie.
With USS Georgie, you know, Georgina, always a girl, and him just running through the rain. Like somebody would have been with him, but it's the 80s, and I get that that's kind of plausible, I guess.
That's also another thing I want to touch on as well.
Yeah.
The fact that it was set in the 80s.
And not the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, I think,
fine.
Which actually, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It actually makes just as much sense if it was in the 50s. Even though the movie itself feels kind of timeless. Because they're not on their phones. There's certain musical cues where I do want to talk about, which are pretty cool. But the movie itself feels timeless. It feels like Stand By Me in a way. And I think that's what they got right in the movie is that you can watch this 50 years from now and it probably will still have the same weight. You know what I mean? So Georgie, of course, gets decked in the face by that sign and loses the boat, which I did want to bring up early is that I find it kind of fascinating that Pennywise is kind of brought or invoked by external fear stimulus. He can't attack you really or even begin to enter your life until you're in a state of fear outside of him. And I've kind of noticed that for every character, there's a weird moment of external fear where then they start getting the visions and then start getting the hauntings, as it were. And for Georgie, it was him
losing the boat.
Yeah, losing the boat.
Which is interesting because I mean, it's a little thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But and for any other person, it would be like it's just a damn boat.
Yeah.
But again, it's the level of fear that matters. So
yeah.
Which is why I'm kind of curious as to is it a deep seated fear that attracts Pennywise, or is it more so just fear itself?
I think it's stimulus. I think it's
stimulus of any kind.
Of any kind. Like
Okay.
there's a scene, I don't want to jump too far ahead, where what's his name? He was in the library. Ben. Ben is researching because he has nothing else to do.
Right.
In the library, and kind of just sneaks up behind him and hits the table and say, "What are you doing? You should be outside with kids." He didn't start getting the manifestations until that moment. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily a deep-seated fear for him. Mm-hmm. It was the smell of that stimulus. Oh, I was abruptly shocked. The same could be said about Georgie, where he wasn't some deep-seated fear. It was him not paying attention and being decked by the post. It's that initial spark of adrenaline, I think, that's what triggers Pennywise, at least in this film. And then, of course, he goes to that damn sewer vein and sewer drain, and it begins the seduction of innocence. It's Pennywise pretty much trying to speak to a child as a child would understand. You know what I mean? And that's honestly one of the most unsettling moments of the film, is his courtship of Georgie in a weird way. That my mom told me not to talk to strangers. I'm Pennywise, Georgie Pennywise. I guess we're not strangers now anymore. That kind of only something a child would get really bothered me a little bit in that scene. And I thought it really was a good start to this film. You know, Wes Craven, God, rest his soul, said the best ways to do horror films is to hit them hard in the beginning, build a story in the middle, and hit them hard again at the end. And I kind of felt that vibe with this start. You know what I mean? So what did you think of this seduction of innocence, the Georgie scene, so to speak?
I thought it was pretty brilliant, and there was some creative license with the intro compared to the 2-part series, of course.
Right.
Like him hitting his head.
Right.
And also the woman nearby.
Yeah, the grandmother and the cat.
Yeah. I thought that part wasn't needed, but it was nice.
I guess it's kind of like it wasn't. I felt the same way. It wasn't needed, but it's the whole cliche of the animals know,
right?
And the people who can't speak are the ones who've seen, right? Where the cat watched the whole thing, and grandma didn't become alarmed that this child just disappeared out of the street,
right?
You know what I mean?
But she can see the superfluous blood on the ground, but
the drain. Yeah. No one saw that, right? Like
I
there's
saw
so much blood.
I saw. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And that scene, oh my goodness, where it wasn't the effect of Pennywise's mouth biting off Georgie's arm. It was the shriek of Georgie that bothered the hell out of me.
Exactly. It was that.
It was not cool. Like, it's a primal thing to hear a child cry or scream. Something in your head just goes alert. You know what I mean?
At first, when I saw the him opening his mouth, I was like,
right.
The CG was like
the CG is very touch and go in this movie.
Yeah,
just to put that out there.
Yeah, that's a precursor to the rest of the movie and my attitudes toward the use of CG.
Right.
Other than that's a separate issue altogether. But like you said, it wasn't necessarily him actually like opening his mouth and revealing his Which is cool too, because that's kind of how it works in the original 2-part series as well.
Right.
That you do see him,
he manifests his true form only a little bit in pieces, right?
Right. Again, hitting him hard.
Yeah. Kind of jaws it.
But literally, it was the apex of that scene. Literally, was him screaming and then crawling away,
and then trying to jungle crawl out of it with one arm. And to see a child in peril is something you just don't see on film anymore.
Yeah. They
don't do it as often or ever. I can't think of the last time I've seen a child on film be in a state of distress where their lives were actually really in danger. And you know what's going to happen. I mean, everybody knew how that scene was going to end, but I didn't expect it to be as graphic or as bone-chilling as it was to see him get... Well, him being cartoonishly dragged into the thing wasn't that bad. It was just that moment in between, you know what I mean, that really kind of set the tone for the whole movie. Like, they're not messing around, like, okay, let's do it. And from there, we do like a weird little time jump where we start getting introduced to the Losers Club.
Yeah, it's like a whole year after. Right?
Yeah, it's been like 9 months, a year or something. I think it was like something like that.
It was
right?
from 1988 to 89.
89, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so
which is also disturbing to me because my birth year is 88. So it's
you the guy God, dude.
Yeah. Well, my birth month, not.
Oh no, Pennywise wouldn't have been bothered with you. When you're a baby, you're infinite fear and hunger. So we start getting slowly introduced into each of the Losers Club, starting with, of course, Bill, who we've already been introduced to. And this kid is like Tony Stark. Like, he created this crazy water irrigation system in his garage, and his dad didn't even care. He was like, "You're an idiot." It's like, no, look at this thing. I would have never built that in 100 years.
Okay.
It's like a Pee Wee Herman, like Rube Goldberg machine. Thing was sick.
I liked it. I think it's giving Bill a little more character development than compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Because Bill was the one who was most affected by all this shit.
Yeah.
And so I think that was actually a really good touch to add that it was more of an obsession of trying to, not just that he was shaken up, but he was actually really trying to resolve this.
He was trying to find his brother.
He truly believed that he was still alive. Yeah.
And where everyone is given up, right? Because there's been so many disappearances of dairy children that the adults, which I really want to talk about the adults in this film, the adults have become numb to it, to where it's just another thing. And his father is just plain numb. Just, he's dead. Deal with it, right? Like, don't let your mom see this. And
not just the adults, the bullies as well.
The bullies are. Oh, let me get. Oh, that's a good segue, because I want to talk about the adults, but we can go into that a bit further later. The bullies are nightmarish in this movie, to the point where my iconic worst bully ever is Biff from Back to the Future. He's when I think of a bully, I think of Biff, like the worst kind of human. But no, these kids are damn near vandals.
They're sadistic.
They're sadistic.
Yeah.
And you start to see it slowly as they, start ridiculing, because the first bullies we see are the girl bullies, right, that were bothering Beverly. And then we're introduced to Beverly, who is the girl of the group. And I don't know who that actress was, but she kind of killed it. I think she was one of the stronger of the Losers Club in regards to her acting. And she's known around town to being promiscuous, which is complete BS. But we find out kind of where that stems from later in the film, and that goes back to the damn parents. And it's so uncomfortable. It's so crazy.
Just a quick note on that.
Yes.
In the original 90s film, the series, you do get the actual, like, not hint, but just like overtone that Beverly really is promiscuous, like in the original. Which, and even in the, not to jump too far into the future, even in the second part where they're adults, she's promiscuous. She's promiscuous as well. Then, but that also stems from the portion of the book where she decides to, I think something like she decides to show her genitals or something like that toward the other kids.
Well, that's the part they cut out. That he famously cut out of this one is only way, because not to jump it. Well, let's just go for it. This doesn't have to be necessarily any kind of chronological order. In the book, from my understanding, is that once they killed Pennywise and everything was good, they were lost in the sewers, and they couldn't figure out a way out.
Yeah.
And the only way they can focus is if she slept with all of the Losers Club. And I think that was the gist of it back then. And everyone, when this film was coming up, was like, tell me you didn't put that in the movie. And of course, the guy was like, of course not. What? No. And even Stephen King was like, man, I wrote it. Stephen King was just like, what do you want me to tell you, man? So in this movie, she's kind of anti-promiscuous. She's manipulative, but not even that. Because there's a scene where she manipulates the pharmacist, which is another horrible adult in this movie. But overall, she's kind of, middle America apple pie. She's not really promiscuous. She's just a girl with a secret. And all the girls did the good idea to fill the trash can with water and then to dump it on her head. It's like so rough. I've never seen that before in my life. Like,
I've seen that before, but
really, jeez, Louise, dude.
Just different context, though.
Different context, man. But yeah, we're introduced to Beverly, and they were introduced to one of my favorite characters in the movie, Richie, played by the kid from Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. And they gave him a lot to do because I guess they felt like he was the more developed young actor in this group. And it shows because he gets a lot of talk time, but that's Richie.
Yeah, though. Richie is a motor mouth.
He's a motor mouth, and what was his? He didn't necessarily have a deep-seated fear. It's just clowns.
It was just clowns.
He didn't have like any really family issues or any weird kind of hang-ups. He was just a weirdo comedian. He was, I'm nervous, so I'm going to talk guy. Yeah. And Richie, of course, was being bullied by these damn bullies in their fucking Trans Am, trying to put people's hair on fire in front of like other adults. Yeah. And they just don't care. Yeah. It's in
front of cops.
In front of cops. In front of his dad, who's a cop. And there's a good line in this movie that Eddie got a hold of a gun, and this sadistic bastard was just going to shoot a cat, and his dad was like,
"You mean not Eddie?
Not Eddie. I'm sorry, the bully, Bowers.
Bowers, yeah.
Bowers had his buddy put a cat up on the freaking shooting range, and his dad was like, "See, a little bit of fear, a photo up a paper man." Great line, and it was just like, I know you have issues, Bowers, but you're an asshole, dude. Like he's literally cartoonishly evil to where he has no redeeming quality. And the way he treated Ben, like Ben is going to be either the most biggest badass ever, or he's going to be the most traumatized dude ever based on what he went through in this film, being the new guy. And it had no reason to bother him other than he was fat. That's really it. And it's just, these bullies, man, they were a trip. Also, we are introduced to Eddie, who is the hypochondriac, which I can relate to a little bit, which he had a weird arc too.
I thought, okay, I'll be honest with you, Richie didn't strike me as Richie at first.
It took a second, huh?
It took a little bit because actually I was getting Eddie confused with Richie for a quick minute, and I was like, "What the wait, is that?" And then I was okay. Then it became clear who's Eddie. But I also felt that Eddie was also talking a lot more than I'm used to.
Yeah, Eddie was he was a motor mouth as well. Yeah. But he was in the other direction. He was like, that's gray water. Gray water has all types of bacteria and shit, and the shit of dairy. And it's like, that's not really his character. He was more like, don't touch me, man. I'm just
right. Exactly. He was more demure.
He was more underspoken, and I guess because there's two different kinds of hypochondriacs. There's the ones that don't want to be bothered, and the ones that want to tell everyone that they don't want to be bothered. Right. The introvert and the extrovert.
I mean, it didn't bother me as much.
Right.
But it was different.
It was different. Yeah. That's fine. It was an interpretation of the actor and the character, and of course, we're introduced to Stan, and Stan kind of wasn't really used that well, in my opinion. He's the timid, kind of easily spooked kid.
He took on more of Eddie's qualities, actually, which I felt a little miffed about that. But,
he was a kind of a weird amalgamation of Eddie and his actual character from the book,
right?
Where you find out he's the son of a Jewish, I guess, a rabbi.
A rabbi.
He was the head of the church, or the head of the synagogue. Yeah, and he couldn't figure out. He had to do his Torah, and he couldn't figure it out, and that was his external anxiety from his parents. And I just want to talk about the parents for a second, because there's no redeeming adult figure in this entire film. And that even goes to Mike, who is dreadfully underused in this film. And even his parental guardian gives him good advice, but just does it in the most shitbag way possible, where he's working at a butcher, not really a slaughterhouse, really.
Yeah, it's a slaughterhouse. Yeah,
and they've designated this child to be the one to do the death blow to all the animals, and of course he's like, hell no, man, I don't want to do that. And they give him a hard time, but other than Richie, all of the parents are absolute scumbags. Like, every adult in this film is a scumbag, dude. And was it like that in the book where there was just no redeeming? Because usually what balances this out is that I get the cliche of parents just don't understand. It's us against the world. The adults don't know, don't believe us, or don't care. There's usually one adult that is the, I understand, guys, like, let's work together. Kind of like the sheriff in Stranger Things. You need at least one. And there was these children were completely isolated, which adds to the horror, but it also makes me feel like adults are the worst, man. And they weren't even just bad as in irresponsible. They were neglectful and almost, they were hard. They were the worst people. Like, I don't know how to, can you help me out here?
Which again, what you were going to touch on earlier about the being the numbness
of it, like that.
Yeah. I think that's more of what it was in this particular storyline. And now, of course, Beverly's dad was always a perverted dickhead.
That's what I was going to say. Like, even outside of the Pennywise phenomena, these parents were still horrible.
Yeah. Now,
Eddie's mom is downright almost psychotic.
I believe. Yeah, I mean,
it's taken to extremes. Is all I'm saying.
She was in the original movie. She was also just as much of a hypochondriac as he was.
Right.
But in terms of the book, I don't remember that much. I don't want to recall specifically, but I do believe she was also the same. Beverly's parents, her dad was also the same.
Mm-hmm.
Bill's parents, who you don't see too much of their parents. Actually, I don't think you really see Bill's parents at all. Actually, I don't think.
No, you see his father in the original, or in the remake. In the television series. I don't think you see Bill's parents, right?
Yeah, I don't think you see.
You barely see his father. He's like in one scene.
Yeah, Yeah, his. So I mean, I can't really say much about Bill's parents. What's his name? Yeah, Mike's parent. Mike's
a weird situation.
I'll just jump into it right now. I don't like the way they represented Mike.
Me neither. That was a big problem for me.
I think, for one, let me just say this, and we'll continue on.
Of course.
But the idea in the original, and even in the book, Mike was actually the one who was spewing out all the facts about Derry. Yeah. He was also, he eventually became the librarian of Derry.
Exactly.
He was the one who stayed behind when everyone else left.
When everyone left,
as adults. Ben never really, he never actually really cared enough about Derry to really delve into the history.
Right.
And I felt like
they took something away from Mike.
And I don't really know why that was necessary.
Maybe they didn't feel the young actor could have pulled it off because he didn't have a lot of speaking roles.
No,
he had one exposition moment where he was talking about the death of his parents. Mm-hmm. But I still feel that if that's the case, then get another actor.
Yeah.
Because why take that away from him and why make Ben Captain Exposition? Yeah. Where it should have been Mike, and it just left less for Mike to do other than being the brute or being the muscle, so to speak, which has kind of bothered me a little bit about his portrayal. Especially where he was the one that was saved by the bullies. Well, everyone was technically saved by the bullies at some point because those guys were a freaking town menace. And, and then from there, we kind of go into how the Losers Club comes together, where the bully Bowers is literally cutting an H into Ben's stomach. I'm like, this is going way too far. And you see, and the part that bothered me the most was the elderly family driving by and not saying anything. It's the numbness of Derry is that they're just over it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then of course the team goes to kind of quote unquote save him. Well, not really. They kind of just run into him.
Yeah, they run into each other,
and then they protect him.
Yeah.
And then and then they go to fix him up, and that goes to that weird scene where Beverly is flirting with the pharmacist.
Oh yeah, the pharmacist.
And the pharmacist is super creeping on her, and it's so uncomfortable, like from that point of view. Like, with those glasses on, you look like Clark Kent. Can I wear them? Just not working them, but at the same time, it's like he's letting it be worked. which is a whole different side of it. It's just this movie gets under my skin on a lot of different levels, man. Ugh, jeez. So, oh man. So we get to the point where the manifestations start happening. I want to talk about each of their manifestations of Pennywise, where with Bill, it's him seeing his Georgie, technically, running around in there. Is it that their house that he's at when he sees, or is he, where was he actually? I don't remember.
He was actually in the basement
of his house, right?
And I think it was not flooded. Or maybe
it was flooded.
It was flooded
because it's because Pennywise is the horror cadence of this movie, which I wanted to talk about. That each scare has a cadence to it. It's loud noise, loud noise, silence, pop, and rush. Pennywise just kept rushing at them, like everything ran at you. Because what it was, because even with Ben's, it was the drummer boy without a head. And first thing he did was sound, quiet, pop, and then this headless thing just starts rushing at him. I just got a laugh out of it.
I actually liked Ben in that scene because he didn't even think, he just ran. He
was gone. He was super gone, dude. Shit was dope. I would have super done that. I would have been like, once my brain processed what was happening, I would have been out, dude.
He's like a rhino. You know, rhinos, like, they don't think, they just act.
They just act? Yeah, he was gone, dude.
I mean, no offense to Ben and his weight,
but no, yeah, I get you, but he was just like, I'm out, and then he crazy, dude. Oh shit. And then you have, which I think one of the cooler ones was. It's not Eddie. Is Eddie the hypochondriac?
Yes, Eddie the hypochondriac.
Is that the one where the leper?
Yeah, the leper
comes at him with some of the weirdest. It could have been prosthetic, but it was CG. I wish it was prosthetic because you just got the guys from Walking Dead, K and B, to hook that up. It didn't need to be CG, and I think some of the CG in this movie is amazing. It's really, really good, but some of the CG is just unnecessarily weird. Like there's a scene where Stan is standing at the doorway, and the background is obviously CG of just outside, where they already have like establishing shots of outside. They just could have shot it normal and would have looked good. But the CG is kind of a little weird all over this place. And we're definitely. Is there any manifestation that really calls to you? Any moment?
Oh, Georgie, for sure. Bill's manifestation of Georgie, because and I like that one for two reasons. For one, I like it because going back to the intro where Pennywise tells Georgie, don't worry, you'll float too.
Yeah.
And then when Georgie is actually saying that, I thought it was awesome, but that actually creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah,
because like the way he was saying it, and then it
started to turn.
Yeah, that creeped me out. Not because of the way it turned, but just the way it turned into that. Mm-hmm. But just how ecstatic he was about it. And that was also in the trailer too.
Yeah, it was a good trailer cut because his voice went from somber to laughing to ecstatic to hysterical. Yeah, I don't know if the kid actually voice acted that, but that was insanely good. Yeah, and then the deterioration was going with the vocal pitches. Mm-hmm. I just was like, there's some shots of this movie that are beautifully done. Like the camera work in this movie is not to be ignored. It's really sharp, and that scene was just set up so well. And of course, there's the scene where Pennywise then shows up and does the water rush in the trailer. And you see the slink away where he's always candy corner of the shot. He's always at an awkward angle. And then he kind of peels away. And as he's peeling away, his eyes go white or his teeth adjust. Or his eyes are off center with each other just a little bit to mess with you. Mm-hmm. I think that was a very good design idea, is to keep him constantly at a weird tilt
Yeah, at an uncomfortable presentation to really make you not get used to him.
Yeah, he's always mutating and adjusting, and his uncanny valley is constantly shifting to where it's something as subtle as his jaw is just slightly to the left, or something as crazy as half his face is venomed out,
right?
And you see the teeth rows up into his cheekbone. I think the way they played with that, using the technology they have now, was actually should be award winning. Like, it's very subtle sometimes, but it's very, very well done at others. It's going into Pennywise. How did you think of the performance?
Bill Skarsgård?
Of Bill Skarsgård.
Incandescent.
Yeah,
I thought it was very incandescent. I thought he did an amazing job, and I believe he should win an award for that.
Honestly, yes, because he did everything he had to do. He acted through that makeup.
Yep.
He even acted through the CG, which is really hard to do. And his body language, his posing, his voice work. He put a lot of thought into it, and I love seeing that.
Yeah,
where you're buried under this costume and buried under this makeup, but you still emote through it. And there's parts, you don't think I'm real? Your brother, you think I'm real, Bill? And he's like he's asking like in a sympathetic tone. He's like, your brother sure thought I was real.
That was fucked up. That was really fucked up.
I was
thinking like, oh shit, like this. Oh my god,
I love that scene, and it's funny enough that kind of goes into the next thing. Is the time to confront this guy, right? And they go and get broke off their first night out, going to the house, with totally unprepared for what to expect. And
that was during the daytime, I believe.
That was during the daytime,
yeah.
And because they're both during the daytime, which I love because there's a lot of daytime horror, and I love daytime horror ever since like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That bright, nothing's is hidden. But they go into the house, and Pennywise systematically breaks them all down, one way or another. It kind of starts with Eddie or Stan. I think it started with Eddie because he peeled off the group.
It started with Eddie and Pennywise. Yeah, because I don't know how. In fact, actually, I'm still kind of confused about how that even happened. But for some reason, Richie and Bill were entranced by this door.
They were entranced because they thought they saw Georgie running around. Was it Georgie? It was one of the kids. It wasn't Georgie. It was one of the missing children.
Okay.
I think it was the missing girl.
Yeah. Yes, it was the missing girl. I forget her name.
Right.
And she was dragged away.
Right.
And Eddie,
he went left when they went right.
Yeah.
And down this huge hallway. It's comically huge Nightmare on Elm Street hallway.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then for some reason Eddie falls to the floor.
Yeah.
Breaks his arm, which I thought was pretty damn
He
graphic.
popped his arm, and all he needed was a little bit of blood. But sometimes I guess that can happen without it breaking skin. And then they start to hear, oh, my buddy's in trouble.
Right.
And Pennywise is working him over in the corner. And that's where that line came. Oh, you don't think I'm real?
Yeah.
Your brother thinks I'm real. And
Savage. Just completely savage.
So
man.
nuts, dude.
And you know the other thing about that line too, which I actually really like, is that Pennywise, like he really knows how to get under your skin.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that. We had a conversation the other day, and we were saying like it's not scary, it's disturbing. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about it while I was watching it, and I wasn't scared, right?
Right.
Of course, I was disturbed, as I'm mentioning in this review. But it makes me think that the scares were engineered for children. Mm. And I'm not saying that as a knock. I'm not saying that as it's watered down. No, it's like things that would terrify children now. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
They're very easily digestible fears. Fear of the dark, fear of strangers, fear of, of isolation. And it made me think like all these scares, as an adult, I can handle. But if I was like 10 watching this or 7, I would probably be wrecked. You know what I mean? So it made me think that this was a director's decision to not make it adult scares, because these scares aren't engineered for us. They're engineered for the children, who Pennywise has over hundreds of years kind of mastered the art of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the people, there were some of them watching the door. I think Beverly was outside. Mike was outside, and they rock him with a what is it? A pike almost.
Yeah. I think it was a corrugated, well, not corrugated, but it was a rod.
It was a rod, right? And you get a glimpse of that. Yes, this thing can't be hurt.
Yeah.
And then he starts to kind of, because he's very human at moments, and then it loses its humanity and starts to revert into something almost like cosmic. It starts losing its touch and trails off. Like even when it was talking to Georgie, it started trailing off its own script, you know? It's like it'll start talking to you and then it just start hissing or humming, or its eyes will just space out and you're just like, this thing is not human, man. Like, and I love that. It's a little touch that I love, dude.
I mean, you can pretty much tell some of the bitches not human. His eyes are glowing and he's talking
His eyes are
through
glowing.
a sewer. Like,
he's talking through a sewer and all you see is his glowing eyes in complete darkness. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah.
So they get broke off, but they do realize that yes, he is here, and yes, he can be hurt, but also so can we. And there ends up being this big giant fallout between the team, which happens. It's a writing trope. The team disbands, and how much time was it that passed? It was like toward the end of the summer, right? It was almost like a month, or because it was long enough for.
It was still summer. I don't know how much time transpired.
It was long enough for Eddie's arm. Oh, Eddie's arm is still in the cast.
It was in the cast, yeah.
So it hasn't been that long. Maybe a couple of weeks.
Yeah, probably.
That everybody kind of just start doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Like trying to live normal lives and be like, until it happens to me, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. Which
is the worst way to live.
Yeah, Ben basically was like, you know what? Like, you know, he of course, he's the one who figured out that it was, you know, this happens every 27 years or
Ben was Captain Exposition. He was the one who mapped it out.
So he's basically, his attitude was like, you know, sure, okay, once this blows over, I'll be long
out of here,
like,
and a grown man, and it won't be a problem with me anymore. And Bill was like, I can't, that's the answer for you, but it's not an answer for me.
Right.
And before we go past it, I did want to talk about the projector scene, which is pretty well planned. It's a horror classic scene, I think, where they're looking at the projector and it starts, of course, going on its own. And you start seeing that shutter shot. And then the projector starts projecting on different walls.
Yeah. Like
teleporting. Yeah. And then it just gets super dumb where Pennywise becomes 12 feet tall or maybe like 20 feet tall, enough to fill up the entire garage. And of course he does the rush, the doom, running towards him. And I was like, this movie is so smart in moments. And there's certain things that just take away from it being a 10 out of 10 for me in regards to its execution and what it wants to do. You know what I mean? So we get finally, which has been hinted at the entire film, the deal with Beverly's dad. Mm-hmm. And he's obviously, they never spell it out. They kind of do. That he may have sexually assaulted her because he's creeping on her infinite hard. And it's one of the more uncomfortable moments of the film. But it's also one of the most empowering when she finally stands up to his gross ass and beats the shit out of him. You know what I mean? And the conquering of fear. She was the first one to conquer her internal fear. And I don't know why that would have, and one of the problems I had, I don't know why that would have called Pennywise, because that would have kind of been anti-food for him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which I did notice that too.
Yeah.
I think what that had to do more of was she was still scared.
Yeah.
She was still frightened. Mm-hmm. She overcame it, but that's still, I mean, it's like all that fear was already ejected out in the ether. So,
and he was the bloodhound smelling and going to the fear.
Yeah.
And by the time he got there, she was already conquered her fear.
Yeah.
Now, the bathroom blood scene, I know we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah.
Where she got her fear when her father touched her hair, mm-hmm. and she cut all the hair off as a sign of rebellion against his advances. And then the infinite, like Nightmare on Elm Street, old geyser of blood comes out.
That was really well done.
Yeah.
That I mean, that was...
You don't see it, right? You don't see it. And he's like, what? Get up. Why'd you cut your hair? Yeah. Can you see this? They're like, yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
And it made for a really fun montage moment.
I mean, just the way it was done itself, though.
It's very well done.
It shot all in her mouth, all in her sinuses.
Her entire body was painted red.
I mean, she had to ingest some of that stuff.
Yeah, whatever it was. And it made me think, like, Pennywise and Freddy have I'll keep mentioning Nightmare on Elm Street, but they have a lot in common where the manifestations are real if you want them to be real, but then they're also real after the manifestation because Ben's tummy scratch lasted.
Yeah.
Not to jump too far ahead, but
I think that wasn't the manifest. That was real, actually.
The scratch?
Yeah.
Not the H.
No, not the H,
but the claw.
The claw. I think that was real.
Because it makes me think like, is Pennywise a tangible creature?
I mean, he wasn't original.
He wasn't original, but he wasn't because he can teleport in broad daylight, and it just makes me think of like, because I know the history of Pennywise and what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how they're going to touch on that in this film without making it too fantastical, but it makes me think of his rule set. Like the father couldn't see the blood. Mm-hmm. Adults couldn't see any of this going on, nor they wanted to, or they were aware of it. And it makes me think, is this the town with a secret? Did the parents have to go through this when they were children? Because it's every 27 years.
Yeah.
So were the parents so irreparably damaged by their encounters with Pennywise that it affected their children? Makes you think.
I think the physical trauma actually is real, though. When it comes to like the whole blood scene, that probably is, a form of manifestation. But I definitely do believe because Richie's arm actually Eddie's arm actually did break.
But that was due to the fall. That wasn't due to Pennywise.
However, Georgie's arm really was ripped off because the blood was there. I mean, like,
yeah. And there's a scene later where Stan gets worked over, and his wounds were real.
Yeah.
They were post moment.
Yeah.
So something about him does inhibit a tangible reality bending effect. Mm-hmm. But it makes me think like this character doesn't have rules outside of it only affects children. It only affects children who've been chosen through stimulus. Because apparently not all kids saw it, because Ben didn't really start seeing it until he started getting scared.
Right.
And that was when he saw the flyer that said, missing child, and it was him.
Oh, that was
I'm sorry, not Ben, Richie.
That was Richie, yeah.
Because Richie was one of the last ones to see it. He's like, do you have to be a virgin to see this or something?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until he saw his own mortality to where he started crying and freaking out, and then he finally could start seeing the Pennywise manifestation. And speaking of the manifestations, man, let's talk about that Bauer. No! I was going to say I forgot. Actually, he stayed outside when they were cleaning the blood up. He didn't see the blood.
So he never saw the blood.
So he never saw it. And that's when he said that line, because he was like, you guys are crazy. What happened? Well, I don't like being a doorman. So I do want to talk about the Bauer scene, which is one of the more disturbing scenes in the movie, is where Bauer he just got worked over by his old man. Not physically, mind you, because with this movie, it's like, geez. But he demeaned him in front of his buddies, and Bowers is the leader. So Bauer goes to see his old man laid up and kill him. They kill him chance on the television, to where Bauer uses the knife he was given to by Pennywise, a tangible, thing.
Yeah, the one he lost.
The one he lost.
Yeah.
My dad is going to kill me. I need to find this knife. And he straight up murders his dad in the most cold-blooded, weird Ed Gein serial killer style. And it's just like, if it was quick, it wouldn't have been as bad. But the scene lingers. It lingers on the death. It lingers on the post-mortem, and it lingers on his descent into infinite insanity. And he turns from a kid into Dr. Doom. You know what I mean? Which also cements my idea that this character is nightmarishly cartoonish. I wish they would have given him a little bit more to chew on than being kind of like, I look at him as if I look into the main antagonist of Stranger Things, season 2, the older brother to Max, to where he was an unforgivable asshole, but at the same time, you saw where it was coming from, why he would be this way. But I guess that goes back to TV shows just have more time to flesh these characters out, where Bowers is just a mustache-twirling maniac this entire time. He has no redeeming quality. You know what I mean? So,
but I feel like that's one of the low parts of the movie. I do like that part where he does actually kill his dad.
Yeah,
I like it.
Freaked
Not
me
because,
out.
not because of him doing it, but because it was really disturbing. But and I'm going to jump ahead because
Go for it.
because we're already pretty much at the end of the movie anyway.
Yeah, we're towards the final confrontation.
Yeah, so like when he's getting ready to kill Mike, you know, he has his hydraulic, not hydraulic, but his
He has
CO2
his the Anton Chigurh,
gun.
right?
Yeah, he has this CO2 gun,
Yeah,
and he's getting ready to kill Mike with it. Mike fights back, and he pushes Ben down the well.
yeah.
He pushes Bowers down the well.
He pushes Bowers, which pretty much killed him.
Yeah, it had to have killed him.
Yeah.
So like that part, I'm not really a fan of because, you know, in the original, I mean, like I hate comparing, but
You have to, man.
you kind of have to because like in the 2-part series, he is one of the people that actually comes back.
Yes.
In an insane asylum.
Yes.
And Pennywise utilizes him. He leverages him.
He is his physical instrument.
Yeah, he's his thrall.
Yes.
Basically.
And it's like Pennywise can manifest things out of thin air. Maybe he saved him. Because he was already Pennywise's thrall in this film via the mailbox and his "my dad's going to kill me" knife.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a way they can explain it because the whole if you didn't see a body, they didn't die cliche. But that kid's dead, dude.
Yeah, he's dead.
He fell into an infinite hole.
Yeah.
But then again, that hole could have been an illusion. Right?
I mean, it's a little confusing.
It's very confusing due to the subject matter.
I'm going to call it. Bowers is dead.
Bowers is super dead.
He knocked his head. So if he didn't die from the fall, he died.
Fell from a concussion.
Yeah,
right?
like I mean, like.
Jeez. And then you have Mike, which wasn't there for was he there for the final battle? Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. He was there.
He kind of got back down there. And one of the creepier scenes is, I keep forgetting the timid kid's name, Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie.
Yeah, no, Stan. I'm thinking of Stan.
Okay.
Eddie is the hypochondriac.
Eddie,
Stan is the young Jewish child.
Yeah.
So Stan sees his weird face painting woman, and it grows a second extra mouth. And the kids sneak up on him like a la. It makes me think of movies like Krampus, where it's dark, and then you see a hard light on what's going on, and you just see this thing's face attached to his face, kind of like it's almost like The Thing, on how rough it was. You can literally see Pennywise drinking the fear from his entire. Oh, that bothered me.
Yeah,
that got me. I got me good.
Like an addict.
And he just peels off of him and goes away to talk to Beverly. I may be time jumping a little bit, but Pennywise realizes that he can't feed off of Beverly because she's absolutely not afraid of him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not afraid of you.
And then he shows her the lights.
He shows her which are really important.
Yeah.
Those 3 lights, and that goes into Stephen King lore deeper than anything in the movie, which makes you think. I hate to use the word cinematic universe, but they can do it if they wanted to. You know what I mean? So we get the final confrontation of the losers club versus Pennywise, and this is the most beautiful scene of the movie, and it's so macabre. Is the carousel of floating children?
Yeah.
It was so well shot, and it reminds me of the end of Candyman, where they're going through the projects, and there's a giant like dumpster fire, but it's full of like chairs and TVs, and it's this huge mountain of trash, and it's the same thing. But then when you look up, it's a carousel of floating disembodied spirit children, and it's like I want to draw it. Like, it's so well shot. It was so cool. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Want to draw dead kids, Mike?
No. I want to draw the carousel, and I'll replace the children with chili cheese fries. That'll work, right? Jeez, I'm morbid. But they confront Pennywise, and Pennywise tries it with each one of them. One of the cooler scenes is when Mike is tries to hit Pennywise with a bat or something, and the burnt hands of his parents come out of his mouth and start reaching out to him like Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Or the the painted woman flips and turns to not Eddie but Stan, and the part where they use the Anton Chigurh, the gun, on Pennywise. He's like, that's not loaded, and it still hits him, and that goes into something completely underspoken in this film, is that their imagination is fuel for their weaponry. And it's really emphasized in the television series. Suck battery acid, and uses his inhaler, and it pretty much evaporates him. It's the same thing, but it's so subtle that if you didn't know it, you'd be like, wait, what? Why did that work? And it's really for the fans, that moment. And then he did the exact wrong thing. He turns into Beverly's dad, which was the kill shot, because she's sure as hell going to work that guy over. Yeah. Because she's not afraid of him anymore. And and then Pennywise goes through these weird transformations where he's shape-shifting, and it's really smooth, like how they do it. Like he grows like praying mantis arms at one point, just and he's like attacking them. Yeah. It's so smooth. It was very well done. And they defeat Pennywise, man. They kind of just defeat him.
They don't defeat him.
They draw him. They starve him out.
Yeah, and he retreats, which again shows that there's gonna have to be another movie,
the sequel, right? The second chapter, as it were.
Second chapter.
And let's talk about that for a split second as we close this out. The second chapter, the idea of what Pennywise actually is, and the futility of what they've done. The victory is theirs, and this is a victory that they hold until adulthood, some positively, some negatively. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. Because Pennywise, for those who don't know, and I don't want to... Should we go into that in this podcast? Yeah. Why not? Pennywise is a cosmic entity to the point where there's God and then there's anti-God, kind of like a la John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. If you've never seen Prince of Darkness, I want to do that on this show because that movie freaked me out. It's... What if God as we know him is actually an anti-God and he just hates us all, It's like, what? Sorry, I don't want to go into that. It's a good ass movie. But Pennywise is this cosmic being who is doing this apparently omnipresent of the entire universe, right? If I'm explaining that right. And he's eternal. He's just, there's nothing you can do to actually kill him. He's not killable. He's not even stoppable. He's just more like, all right, my energy is wasted for this moment, in this moment, but I can come back. And that's the whole 27-year thing. And I kind of think it's kind of cool how the victory of the children is then turned into their nightmares in the future. You know what I mean? To talk about the second part in the future sequel to this movie, which... After seeing it, I'm very jazzed to see who they get in the roles and how they approach it, because the second part is the weaker to me of the two parts. So for them to make that good is going to be a little bit of a challenge. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with that, especially with the way they've changed things. It's going to be a little harder to, I think, actually, let me ask you this. Who do you think would be the hardest to cast with this particular version of
given the pick of the litter we have from Hollywood?
Well, not just from Hollywood, just in terms of
character development. I want to say Beverly. Beverly is the most layered to me personally of the adult Losers Club, and you can say Bill. Because Bill kind of gets over his stuttering, but then when he comes back to Derry, he kind of resurfaces or something like that.
You're talking about in the original or this one?
Oh, geez, right. Because Bill does kind of get over his stuttering a little bit in this one, but it returns to him as an adult. Yeah. And Richie is still a comedian. He's still a yuck, but he's still dreadfully horrified of going back to Derry. So I would think the role that would be the hardest to fit would be Beverly, because she has the craziest arc and she goes through the weirdest transformation of them, especially going back to Derry, because she kind of flip-flops, especially in the TV movie. And other than him, I would say either her or maybe even Eddie. would be a tough person to get right in a short amount of time. You know what I mean? Who do you think?
Well, I can tell you what the easiest would be. That'd be Stan.
Stan's is the super easiest.
He's going to kill himself.
Yeah,
but
Stan's out of effect, man. He was like, nah.
You can even have him kill himself off screen.
You can have that be the opening of the film.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
this movie started with child murder.
Yeah.
Hard child murder. So if they were to start with the intro being a prologue
right.
of Stan being visited or something, or the manifestation affecting him to a point where he's committed suicide, and then we go into the movie, that'd be a strong start too. It would be a bummer. But I think a main character of the Losers Club deserves an on-screen death. And, you know, death is a good way to start a horror film. Look at Scream.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
For me, I think the hardest person to cast actually will be. I think it will be Eddie. Actually,
That's what I was thinking.
It's going to be hard because Eddie has such a big shift.
Yeah.
In his character, it's just his character arc from the book and also from the original, 2-part series. However, I think if they do get him right, they will get the movie right.
Yes. Absolutely, because he is the make or break. So they have to get an actor that is going to land that. And with the money this movie has made, don't be surprised if you don't see some Academy Award winning actors going for this thing. You know what I mean? I'm hearing Jessica Chastain as Beverly. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm hearing, but I don't want to do a fan cast, even though it matters, but it doesn't matter.
It's kind of pointless.
It's kind of pointless, right? So, closing out the film, they do their blood pact where if this thing ever comes back again, we'll be back again. And not the whole team, as we talked about, but and then, of course, Bill and Beverly have their moment, their sweet on each other moment, and Finn, It Chapter 1, the end. And I was pleasantly surprised watching this film because I didn't go into it with low expectations, but I didn't go into it with high expectations either because modern horror is such a hit or miss nowadays. And it's best to go in with medium expectations and kind of let yourself be shocked one way or another. Are you excited for the prospect of a sequel for this movie?
Oh, I mean, it's not a prospect.
It's going to happen.
It has
right?
to happen.
You're right, right.
But I totally am.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. I'll put it this way. I am excited, but at the same time, I'm also kind of scared.
Yeah.
Because the dynamics have changed.
Yeah.
And this, and I know what I said earlier. Like, if they get Eddie right, then the film will
be in a good shape.
However, that doesn't say much and that's just for character development.
Yeah.
But for story, I mean,
the same guy is doing it. I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the more people you can keep on the project, the better. I think it's the same director, it's the same screenwriter, but this movie's gone through a ton of different That's one of the behind the scenes inside baseball about this movie, is that it had a ton of revisions, a ton of directors were attached to it, had a bit of a weird sordid history.
Right.
But they got the right guy and it all sorted out. And if they keep this team, then I'm, like you said, exciting, but worried that it's something you can mess up really easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There was a deleted scene actually from it. That shows a mother actually offering her baby
to Pennywise.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Is that in the book?
No, it's not in the book. It's actually an added scene. And apparently, it was some sort of pact or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually one of the most disturbing parts of. It's actually more disturbing than anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can see why they left that out.
No, well, it's more than just that. It's very visceral.
Yeah.
In the sense that you don't actually see the baby being eaten.
Yeah.
But you can hear the crunching.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, you can hear.
Pardon my French, but jeez.
You can hear the baby actually snuffing out his screams, or him snuffing the screams of the baby out. They cut that out.
If you guys could see my body language right now, I'm squirming in my chair.
Yeah, it's a really fucked up scene. They cut it out. I forget why they obviously cut it out because it was just little too much.
It may have been too much.
I mean, besides the scene of Mike's manifestation where you see Pennywise, waving at him with Georgie's arm.
With Georgie's arm, I love that scene. That was so cute. It almost seemed improvised. It was so weird.
But yeah, I think there's probably going to be a lot more of that, a lot more cutting of stuff out like that in the second film.
It's a lot more eyes on it.
Yeah.
More money, more problems.
Yeah.
Right? So the attention that the focus is the bigwigs had on this film is 10 times now. So that only can mean more meddling. That only can mean more interference unless they just let this man do his thing and let him make them their money. But as we see by the climate of Hollywood, that's not really the case anymore. And it makes you scared that they're going to overblow it or underblow it, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways to mess this up. And this is the hardest part of the two. This is the most difficult story to tell.
Yeah.
And I applaud them for cutting it up, for splitting it. Because if this would have been just one solid movie, it would have been a nightmare.
Oh, no. That would be the worst.
Can you imagine if they relegated the children to like an opening third of the movie?
Oh, Lord.
It would have been a nightmare, right?
Terrible.
So someone had the bright idea to split these up and say, give this stuff the time it needs to breathe, right? Yeah. So hopefully, and this same guy is the guy who's actually going to be heading DC's film division.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the producer. He did it, and I think he did all the Conjuring films too. Mm. So he seems to have a good head on his shoulders because the Conjuring films are successful. The whole James Wan movement in this movie was highly successful. It was one of the bigger movies of the year. So I have a little bit of faith in what It Chapter 2 will be. But as always, I need to see a trailer. I need to see something tangible to just rest my ailing mind, right? I just have to see it. And once I see it, I'll know, shit, this is over. Or, okay, something to be excited about.
And if anything, this reimagining of it currently will stand as a really, really good attempt. Well, not an attempt, as a really successful part of this entire endeavor.
And Stephen King had a hell of a 2017.
Yep.
Because even though as much as I like this movie, it was not the best adaptation from him this year.
Right.
That goes to Gerald's Game. Mm-hmm. And have you seen that?
I have not seen it.
You need to watch Gerald's Game. Like, that's homework. Like, it's my favorite movie of the year. Like, it's so it's better than the original writing. Mm. Anyway, I'm not going to go on. That's another review for another podcast. But I think Stephen King is in good hands right now. It's just his new stuff won't ever be done. I just want them to try Dark Tower again. Just try it. Just make it a TV series, man. That's one like Dark Tower and what's the other huge one? The Stand. Yeah. You know what I mean? These are his stories that need to be in a long form. It's not like Night Flyer, right? Or even the Tommy Knockers, right? It's like certain stuff he puts out needs to be in long form. And this is one of those things that's right in the middle.
They can leave Dark Tower alone. But, they can leave the Dark Tower alone.
At least for like
it's
a decade.
It's still too fresh.
It's still too fresh, right? Oh, man.
It's still too fresh for a wound, man.
I didn't even watch it. I haven't seen it yet.
Good, don't.
I'm not. I have no desire to see that. Man, any passing thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, watch it.
Watch it, man.
Watch it, man. Just watch
I know we
it.
kind of did a blow by blow, and if I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've watched it. But if not, check this out. Check out the original '90s television series. It gives you different stuff. It will be cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
it will be dated.
Forget what our schmucks are saying. I mean, like even if
it's
we did
good.
Even if we did spoil a movie, watch the shit anyway. Because we could possibly have covered everything, and even if we did, it's still worth watching. Both of them. Yeah.
The book is worth reading.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It as a story is timeless.
Yep.
So if you, like, even I last time I read it was like when I was a kid. I read it like in the 7th grade. Freaked me out. Saw the television series. Freaked me out. Watched this movie. Disturbed the hell out of me as a grown adult. So eat this content. All available ways, because it's good. And if you haven't seen this film, It's on all streaming services at a premium for right now, but eventually it will be free somewhere. So check it out. Out of a 5-star ranking, how many stars would you give this film?
I give it a 4.6 out of 5.
Ooh, 4.5 for me.
Really?
Yeah. What's the perfection blocker? What's the combo breaker?
The CG in some places also. Again, the way the characters are represented.
Mm-hmm.
Bill was overrepresented. He overacted a little bit.
Yeah.
And just overall, like, I wasn't really. I'm a fan of how the bullies were played,
Right.
but I'm also not a fan of how they were taken out.
Yes.
So, like that, those are the knocks for me.
I couldn't have said it better myself. CG was spotty. Character development and character. What's the word I'm looking for? Character explanation, I guess, is the word I'm going to use for right now. Was a bit off, but overall, I want to physically own it. Like I want it so I can watch both and learn from both. You know what I mean? So, where can we find you, Darren?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook or Beer Business Bureau on Facebook. You can find me at Beer B Bureau on Twitter, and you can find me at Beer Business Bureau on Instagram.
Okay, I don't know if I'll make this a thing, but if you were to make a Pennywise beer, what would you use?
Okay, if I'm going to make a Pennywise beer, it would probably be probably a amber or like a red ale, like an imperial red. Mm-hmm. That kind of is reminiscent of the slime that the original Pennywise, not the true form of Pennywise,
right?
In terms of the bottle, but yeah, definitely imperial red ale or imperial red ale.
Nice. Make it a little sweet, maybe.
You gotta make it bitter.
Gotta make it bitter.
Yeah,
you gotta make it bitter,
man. Because Pennywise. Well, yeah, maybe sweet, like
because that it has to be a false sweetness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like
that's cut by bit. That's hits the sweet hits you first, and then the bitter knocks you out.
Then it'd probably have to be like a 12 or 13% beer. Nice. For that's the case. Like, yeah. I mean, like probably really malty in the front end, and then like that the hop, not the hops, but I guess it would be a specific type of hop I'd have to use. I don't know about what I would use. And then with the alcohol that comes in the back, would just completely wipe you the hell out.
Sounds like a plan to me. Make me want one, man. As always, you can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. I always ask to please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because we have more in store for your ears and eyes. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G, and I will always ask you to look towards the skies. Look towards the skis.
But don't look at the three lights, please.
Don't look at the three lights. Don't do it.
What a nice boat. Do you want it back?